righty.
Is it going? Good. All right. Hey, everyone. I recognize most of you. If you don't know me, my name's Pat. My wife Ashley and I own DNS here. I want to thank you all for coming out. These are a tradition that's been going on here for a very long time, and we're happy to continue that. Tonight we have Craig Amacker here. He is a born and raised North Side guy. He doesn't live in the North Side anymore, but still in Madison.
Yep.
Been guiding in the area for 25 years.
Yep.
25 years. Very well known. Orvis-endorsed. There aren't many people that know the Driftless streams like Craig, so we're really happy to have him here. Just a couple things. Make sure that you filled your name out on a little blue card. We do a little prize drawing at the end, or a little blue ticket, and we'll be doing the prizes. I feel like I'm forgetting something. 10% off anything that you pick up afterwards. So anybody that comes, a little discount there. And I still feel like I'm forgetting something, but I guess we'll figure it out. So yeah, let's give Craig a warm welcome, and thanks for coming.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, it's been 20 years since I've given a presentation here. In fact, there were several people who thought I was lost when I got here. Yeah, I grew up other side of Warner Park over in Brentwood, so fishing Warner Lagoon, Lake Mendota, etc. And probably a good chunk of my discretionary allowance went to here since this place opened in the 80s. So it's pretty neat to come back and do a presentation for you guys. Talking fly fishing for trout in the Driftless Region, Spring Creeks. Driftless Region, what it is, it's the area here on the map shaded in pink. It's where the glaciers didn't come during the last ice age, leaving us a lot of steep, narrow valleys with limestone geology that has a lot of underground artesian springs that bubble up out of the ground and feed these trout streams. So these springs come up out of the hillside. You can drink out of that spring. Now, if you're not comfortable eating out of a random food truck in a third world country, maybe you shouldn't. But it creates beautiful free-flowing spring creeks that maintain water temperatures of, on average, 50 degrees for most of the year. Wintertime, you're probably looking at 40, 42. Heat of summer, 68. But keeps them cold. Due to years of ag practices, erosion and whatnot, some of these streams need to be restored. Trout Unlimited, Wisconsin DNR, various corporate sponsors help do that. Here's a before picture as the restoration's happening. They reslope the banks, shore them up with rock, lunker structures, and whatnot, reseed vegetation, and then there's after. You would never know that that is that if you hadn't seen it beforehand. That, it seems like things are man-made at first, but really it's just kind of restoring or remediating the stream, and it brings us a lot more miles of quality trout water, speeds the flow up, drops the temperature, blows out some of the sediment. Main species, brown trout, that's going to be the predominant fish we catch. On average, they're about 8 to 14 inches. Unlike Montana, where it's a lot of, 14, 19-inch fish, a lot of fisheries, the fish kind of ceiling out at 20, and it's harder to get an outsized fish. Here, it's a realistic possibility to get a 15 or higher on a given day. And then there's our native salmonid, the brook trout. We still have some decent brook trout streams. In fact, there's a couple of streams here in Dane County that actually have them. But because things are warming, streams are getting warmer, we're kind of losing some brook trout habitat. Though some have developed a gene to be resistant to warm water, and I think the fish out of that stream is one of those fish. The big broodstock rainbows, we're not seeing them as much anymore. They used to stock them in after they couldn't breed them in the hatchery any longer, and average fish probably 20 inches. Fun to catch, but they're really not supposed to be there. They still stock some smaller rainbows, 8 to 10, 11 inches. Typically later this month, right before the general opener on the first Saturday in May, for put and take fishing, beginner fishing, kids fishing, etc. In fact, I caught a couple out of Black Earth back in February. And then the fish that looks like it's painted, doesn't look real, the tiger trout. This is a cross between a male brook trout, female brown trout spawning on the same red at the same time. They are rare. Handle them with care if you catch one, because once they're gone, they're gone. We are lucky enough to have all 4 seasons to fish now, especially with our early trout season opening the beginning of January and the season going through the middle of October. So we have winter, spring, summer, fall. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, everybody's got everything in one of these right now. Trout routes, Onyx, Google Maps, whatever. Some of these valleys still don't have cell signals or Wi-Fi. So you still have to have paper in the car. Some of us here still know what a paper map is and how to read one. The Wisconsin Trout Regulations book is, you get it when you buy your license. So if you get your license here from Pat, you can get a copy. And it's just a general overview of all the designated trout water. If you want to harvest, tells you what you can harvest. The Wisconsin Atlas and Gazetteer, that's the detailed picture of all the back roads and side roads. It does require these to read it, but helps keep you from getting lost. Improved Wisconsin Trout Waters of Wisconsin. If you find one of these books, either in a fly shop or a used bookstore collecting dust, buy it. The author of the book passed away a couple of years ago, so there will not be a 3rd edition, so get it. The reason you want it, it's paired up with the Gazetteer, so where the Gazetteer has the big picture, the Improved Wisconsin Trout Waters has the zoomed in snapshot, so it's just easier to read what side roads you want to go down, without having to bust out a 4-power of these, and it helps. The newest edition, Trout Fishing Southwest Wisconsin by John Van Vliet. He has on his maps put the QR codes for trout routes on them, so you can scan them and pull them up on your phone, but you've also got a paper map. Okay, rods and reels. Yeah, fly fishing gives you a case of gear acquisition syndrome, otherwise known as gas. Yeah, you can go on our spring creeks with your 5-weight, but really the key, 8 to 8.5 foot 3 or 4-weight is a fun rod for the driftless, especially with our average trout being 12 inches. Also, it makes for a more delicate presentation of small flies. Reel can just be, they hold line. Just get what'll work. Get a good fly line, though. A good fly line can make an inexpensive rod work a lot better. It means everything. I like weight forward just because they cast better into the wind and mend better, and they do make a nice light presentation. Make sure you get the line in more of a stealthy color though, like an olive, light olive or a light tan, because trout get predated upon or eaten by birds like eagles or herons. If you're using a bright yellow or bright orange fly line and it's casting overhead and the fish sees that line shadow, it spooks. So, dull line's good. Okay, leaders, tippet. For years, the trout access lived on 9-foot 5X. I like either the 7.5-foot 2 or 3X, maybe going down to a 4. The reason, shorter leader, I can tie a bigger fly onto it and it just turns it over a lot easier when you're casting. If I'm fishing a smaller fly, like a smaller dry fly or a smaller nymph, I can add more tippet material onto the end. So for example, a size 18 blue-winged olive mayfly, I can add 1.5 foot of 5X tippet onto the end of that leader. It'll turn over beautifully. If I'm nymph or subsurface fishing, I can add 2.5 to 3 feet of 4 or 5X fluorocarbon onto the end of that. And again, it'll still cast well and turn over. And that way, you're not going from a 9-foot leader to a 12-foot leader. You're going from 7.5 to, I don't know, 9.5, 10 feet. Fluorocarbon is more for your subsurface fishing because it sinks, unlike monofilament. It's more abrasion resistant. It's near invisible in the water. So where you'd normally be using 5X, you could now go to 4, which is heavier, and in theory, you don't lose as many flies on the bottom. And then of course, strike indicators or bobbers for your nymph fishing, because the fish are just sitting there like this, just picking at stuff. When it twitches, hesitates, or goes under, set the hook. And then small split shot are also your friend, especially for deeper pools and areas with faster current, but also during the winter time when the water temperatures are colder, they just get that fly down in the strike zone quicker, keep it down there longer, slow your drift speed down a bit so the fish are more likely to eat. Okay, there's a gajillion different flies out there that catch trout. All of them work. But I have a few that I refer to as survival flies that I don't leave home without. On the dry fly end of things, we've got the X-Caddis in olive and tan, the sparkle dun in both the blue-winged olive and sulfur. The thing I like about these particular flies, they're very sparsely tied. The tail material off the back imitates the trailing shuck of an emergent caddis or mayfly that's stuck in the surface film. So that fly can do double duty as either an adult or an emerger, depending where and how much floatant you put on. If you just put floatant on the wing, only part of it floats. If you put floatant on all of it floats. Ants and beetles, solid terrestrials. Not many people think of fishing them. They mostly think of terrestrial fishing as grasshoppers, but there's more of them around, and we start seeing them earlier. Hippie stomper, don't leave home without that. We got my tungsten scud up here. Reason for the orange bead. The scud's a translucent animal, and its internal organs show through its exoskeleton. Fish key on that hot spot. Driftless area urban legend, the pink squirrel. you know, gotta have those. Flashback pheasant tail for your mayfly nymphs, zebra midge for your midge larva, copper john for an attractor beadhead, and then a woolly bugger or variation thereof for your streamers. 2 fly rigs. The top fly rig, which is a scud with a zebra midge behind it, so 2 nymphs, and the bottom rig, which is a foam hopper with a Frenchie couple of feet behind it, are pretty well known. Top one, year-round. This one, you know, midsummer for fishing the pockets below the riffles. But the middle one here, this sparkle done with a pheasant tail behind it. Not many people think of fishing 2 flies during a mayfly hatch or a caddis hatch. The reason you want to do it, if you see fish that are kind of bulging like this and not making splashy rises, those fish are keying on emergent insects that are just under the surface film. That unweighted pheasant tail goes about this far below the surface. That fly is your strike indicator, and you'll catch fish. Sometimes you can get 2 fish at once. Other times this happens, and you just gotta bust these out, or bust out the nippers and untangle stuff. Okay, where these fish live in our streams, you want to think like a fish. The water that's right here behind us, would you live in that right now if you were a fish? Unless there were any insects hatching or bugs coming off. No, you'd be living up in here where it's, you know, deeper, darker water. You've got some current to bring you food. You've got, you know, underwater, you know, rocks, boulders, weed beds for cover. And oh yeah, you want to fish along these edges where it's fast water and slow water edges, or shallow water, deep water edges, and get into the deep. The other thing, this is one of those lunker structures I was talking about earlier where these boulders are. It's a cedar pallet that's rebarred into the bank and then has boulders and vegetation over it. So it's a man-made undercut bank for the fish. You can drift right along the edge. And then we've got the pools with the 90-degree angle on them that are kind of tricky. But again, any of these spots where stuff just slows down a little bit, that indicates deeper holding water. Any of these edges, like right along here. And this is also where you need to be able to do a reach cast. So instead of casting straight across that current, you make your cast, point the rod that way, drop the rod that way, and it drifts. Any of these places when we start fishing, we want to start in the back end of the hole, make 5 casts, move up a few feet, make 5 casts, move up a few feet, and, you know, try to grid things out starting near and then going out, then near, then out. And when you're positioned in here, try to stand as far away from your target area as you can comfortably cast. The reason, 1, you're less likely to slap your heavy fly line on top of the fish. 2, the fish aren't going to see your line loop casting over you as easy. And 3, when we all stand in the same place for a while, we tend to start moving like this. And when we do that, in the water, we tend to throw a big wake ahead of us, which if there's surface feeding fish up there, they're not going to be surface feeding anymore. It's going to put them down. Oh, don't edit. Well, you were on this trip, Drew. Late. This was a trip Drew and I just had in the Bahamas, and we were having fun with some big toothy fish. Oh, okay, back to our winter. Snow in the wintertime. Yeah, it puts more water in the streams, but it's the bane of our existence. Yeah, most of us in here are wearing darker colors, which means we stick out like a sore thumb. So it's real easy to spook fish. Also, you see that glare on the water? The snow reflects a lot of that glare in, making it harder to read the water. But if you can have a darker hillside on one side of you and the sun on the other side, it'll absorb some of that glare, making it a little easier to see into the water ahead of you, number one. And two, if you get in the water, you're actually not against that white background anymore, so you don't stand out as well. Make sure you're well layered for winter just to have your staying power, you know. Wicking base layers, fleece pants, zip top fleece, you know, Primaloft jacket, gloves, hat. And with your fishing gloves, a pair of black nitrile, like latex type gloves under them. Keep your hands from getting wet, number one. And two, because they're black, they soak in a lot more heat, so your hands stay warm, gives you a little more staying power. Okay, the big thing with water temperatures. Once you get down to 38 or lower, the fish are going to be sitting like this. There's not going to be a whole lot happening. Our streams, because they're spring-fed, wintertime, they are around 40, 42-ish. So we get some fish activity. A couple of us were discussing this beforehand here. The magic really starts happening at 45 degrees, which we're finally starting to see now because it's been so cold that's when fish move around a little bit more subsurface foods move and bugs start happening. But, you know, upper 40s to lower 60s is where we want to be. And yep, just winter fishing, treat it like ice fishing. You're going out for something to do. Best fishing's between 10 and 2. After 2, typically the afternoon snow melt kind of catches up and ends up in the stream, which cools down the water, i.e. what happens to your dark and stormy or gin and tonic when you put ice cubes in it? Anybody? Anybody? It gets colder. Same thing happens to the stream when snow melts. It gets colder, shuts fish off, but you got some nice fish. Spring, late winter, early spring, March Madness. The snow's melting from the area finally, you know, filling up the stream. Gives us a little more concealment against the fish. Also, everything's either mashed down or grazed down, so it's a heck of a lot easier to walk around than it was in August, September when it's up to here. Got some big fish. Some big fish on streamers too. But the big thing is, this is some of the first dry fly fishing of the year. We do have tiny midges that hatch in the wintertime on warm sunny days. It's just, how ambitious are you to tie on 6X tippet and a size 22 fly with cold fingers? I leave that up to you. But the blue-winged olive mayfly is our first mayfly of the season to hatch. Typical years, it is around the middle of March that they start. We'll start seeing them in early March. Atypical years like last year, it was February 20th, or my wife's birthday. This year, it was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, because it had been so cold. But we get some good action. Again, our spring dry flies, you don't want to leave home without, God, that sparkle done. Okay, this thing's driving me nuts. The sparkle done right there in blue-winged olive, that's my go-to. Blue-winged olive cripple, but these two parachute Adams here, the parachute Adams has never stopped working as a mayfly imitation dry fly. Get them with both a white wing and a black wing. The reason, if you've got kind of a dark or green surface, that white wing shows up better. If you've got a lot of glare and a mirror, silvery mirror-like surface, the black wing shows up better. Other spring dries, we've got the X Caddis, olive tan, and the Elk-Hair Caddis and tan. These guys should be starting in about another week. Typically, they start around the 15th of April. We call it the Tax Day Caddis Hatch. It's the Mother's Day Caddis Hatch out west because it's around Mother's Day. This year, who knows? The way everything's been late, I think it's going to be more third week in April. And with a lot of your dry fly fishing, it's being done in shallower water just because a fish expends fewer calories coming up from water this deep to eat a bug that big rather than coming up from water that deep. So the bases of riffles here, so like right in here along the edge of the bank here, along these white foam bubbles there. Also, again, this foam is what brings the food down to the fish. So foam's home, have your fly drifting along that. And again, any of these slick spots, like right on the edge of the bank, the fish will sit there and wait for food to come by and eat it. Okay, matching the hatch. There's a book this thick titled Matching the Hatch. I'm going to tell you 4 things you need to know. Approximate shape, approximate size, color, behavior. That's matching the hatch. If it is a stonefly like this yellow Sally or a caddis, its wings are going to be folded back over its body like a tent. If it's a mayfly like this hex, its wings are going to be upright like a sailboat. Another thing, mayfly looks more like a sailboat, caddis looks more like a moth. Because some of these bugs are real small and you can't always see them on the water, either have an insect seine holding it in the surface and catching them, or if a bug lands on your hand, take a few seconds to stare at it. Oh, it looks like a size 18. Oh, it's tan. It looks like a caddis. Then open up your fly box, see what you have that's close to it. When you're getting into position for dry fly fishing, don't just stumble into the creek making random casts everywhere. Take some time to look at what's going on. See how frequently the fish are coming up to feed or rising. See where they are, how close you can get to them, etc., and what they're taking. Make some observations. And again, try to get as far back from them as you can comfortably cast. Now, when you're getting into position in this real flat water like this, wade very slowly so you don't push a big bow wake ahead of you. Because again, if you push that bow wake ahead of you, those feeding fish are going to stop feeding for about 20 minutes. And you got to sit there, wait, do it all over again. But if you get into place, you can get rewarded with a fish. Yeah, I know. Cows are all over the place in our streams. Everybody complains, I think we all have, where we want to fish a certain pool and all of a sudden there's a bunch of cows above us that are dirtying it up. That is actually not the worst thing, because what those cows are doing, they're kicking up a bunch of macroinvertebrates from the stream bottom. So they're basically chumming the fish down below them. You can fish, a darker nymph or streamer with a little more visibility below the cows and you can catch fish. Don't bring your dog when you go fishing. Dogs and cows do not get along. Farmers don't like that. Also, when you're walking around them, just, leave some space, be careful. Yeah, sometimes there's bulls, but if you're careful, you can be just fine. The next thing is just looking at little hidden spots. Every stream has them. They're spots that a lot of people just walk by because people are used to seeing big pools. But some of this little stuff, like you got this fast riffle here, and then right here, it slows down just a little bit. That's it. There's a depression that's scoured out in the bottom. Current on the bottom of the stream is slower than current on the surface of the stream. Fish will sit there waiting for food to come down to them, and, well, there they are. And again, another thing right here, look for any of these riffles, right in here, this edge right here where it's dark, any place that looks darker and deeper. You can have has anybody here been on an electrofishing survey? Anybody? Okay. You've seen this where there's a pocket about this big and that deep. They put an electro prod in there and 8 to 10 fish come out of it. Yeah, it's a real thing. Fish them. And again, there's some nice fish. Typical driftless brown. A couple of our streams right now, the green and the blue, have a good year class of just chunky 12 and 13-inch fish right now with some 14s. It's fun. Okay, muddy water. I was talking about this earlier. Yeah, this was black earth from years ago when a major flood event happened. This is a little extreme on what to fish, but if you just drove to fish somewhere and see mud, don't go home. Don't go to the bar. Go fishing. And the reason is because you can catch some big fish in the mud. This fish here that's on this picture came out of a spot that's normally this big by that deep. Well, when the water went up and got muddy, it was that big by that deep. Big fish move in. It's counterintuitive, but big dark flies in muddy water are good because they just show up better. They cast a bigger silhouette. Flies like woolly buggers that have hackle wound around them push a little bit of a wake as well and have some vibration, so that helps. The big black leeches, Borger strip leech, but the secret weapon right there, San Juan worm behind something like a dark prince nymph or stonefly nymph, whatever, because when it rains in the spring, earthworms and nightcrawlers get washed into the stream and these trout eat them. That San Juan worm, the young lady in the back there could probably tie that fly. I'm convinced she could. It catches more big fish than anything. This is more, you know, the dirtier water visibility we want to fish. This is probably, 24 hours after a big rain, after things have dropped and cleared slightly. Now, when it's chocolate milk, yeah, that's a little harder to fish when you got visibility like that. But if you step into the stream and you can see the top of your wading boot in shin deep water or better, you can fish. That's enough for the fish to see. And what you're doing, you're trying to fish this slower moving water here along the bank, but still try to be near some current. Because any of this faster current, what it does, it pushes some of those suspended solids out of the way, so it might take the fish's visibility window from that to that for a brief time period so they can see your fly easier. And again, some big fish come out to play in muddy water. This gentleman, he had a lesson with me beginning of May last year. End of May, he books a trip right after we got all that rain. And he had some corporate coupon with Orvis that he couldn't use till the day of the trip. So he's like, hey, can I borrow that rod we used in the class? Yeah, sure. That was his second trout on a fly. And the pool I alluded to earlier, you know, that was normally this big, that deep, and went to that big, that deep. 19 inches, that's where it came out of. And we had to tell him, okay, now go buy that rod already because you're ruined. And again, you know, big fish, San Juan worm. Again, craziest thing. When you're fishing the darker water as well, I was talking earlier about making 5 casts, moving up 5 feet. In the darker water, we start in the back, make 5 casts close to you. You know, right in here, up, 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 up. 5 right in here, 5 here, 5 here, move up 5 feet. Oh no, excuse me, I meant 10 casts. 10 here, 10 there, 10 there. You got to give the fish more time to see the fly. The fish are still there when the water's muddy. They just can't see it as easily. In this stretch, we normally wouldn't fish when it was clearer, when it was low and clear. But on that day, that came out of it. Kevin's second trout on a fly. And then I asked him if he wanted to catch another. And he did. Pretty crazy. Notice this fish's belly and how distended it is. That's after a big rain with nightcrawlers washing in. That fish is all full of earthworms and nightcrawlers. Also notice its pigment's a little darker. Trout are like chameleons. The muddier water, they're actually lighter in color, believe it or not. So they blend in more and aren't as likely to get eaten by eagles, herons, whatnot. But when the water's clear and it's a dark mottled bottom, that's where you start seeing, you know, the golden bellies, the dark brown and red spots because they blend in better with the surface. Streamer fishing on spring creeks. These small streams aren't thought of as streamer water. No, I'm not fishing the big 5-inch double articulated dungeons for these fish. It's more flies that look like normal food. We're talking 3 inches long, you know, 2, maybe inch and a half. But, you know, strip leeches, scalp snacks, thin mints, woolly buggers, and then these squirrel leeches are fun little flies. They're about that big, but everything eats them. So it's good. And that's the nice thing about these smaller streamers. They imitate the sculpin, or if it's a lighter colored one, the creek chub or the dace. Crayfish are the other thing. A woolly bugger, by the way, a very good crayfish imitation. And in the summertime, like late August or in August, when the crayfish are molting and shedding those their exoskeletons, it's a lot easier for the trout to eat them then, so the key on them. And again, big fish. But also, another thing a lot of people don't think of, these Mayer's mini leeches. They actually, they imitate the actual size of a leech that we have in our streams that are about that big. You know, black or olive, good colors. Call them micro streamers. And again, these small and micro streamers, they're good searching patterns. If you're on new water and you're trying to just cover it quickly to get the lay of the land and see what's there, it's a good way to go. And again, everything eats them, from normal size fish, which that's, you know, one of our average, to big stuff. Yeah, that fly was caught on a leech about that big. Hard to believe. And again, the good thing about streamers, you can fish them everywhere. This little spot right in here, yeah, you could fish a nymph in there. But by the time you get it up here and it starts drifting down here, by the time that fly's sunk deep enough to get into the strike zone, it's out of the area and out of the strike zone. Whereas I could put a small streamer in here and start fishing it right away. And if there's an active fish in there, this is the key. We're looking for active fish. It's either gonna eat the fly or it's gonna take a swipe at the fly and miss it. So you'll see a fish flash on it and miss it. Also, these bigger, slower moving areas with sunken logs, the streamer's a good way to go because that current moves so slow. If you try to drift a nymph and an indicator through there, it takes forever and it puts you to sleep. This way you can cover water. And again, anywhere that looks fishy, you know, dark spot, little depression, you know, running it along the logs. Or pretend you're bass fishing. Cast it to the edge of this mess right here and watch a shape come darting out. You can also cast them along the shade there as well. Just any cover, any place that looks fishy. When you are fishing streamers, make sure you hold the rod low so you've got better contact to the fly. And if you feel the fish bump it, strip set, so set the hook like this rather than that. That way if the fish misses it, it's still out there in front of him so he can grab it again maybe. Hopefully he does. Hopefully you catch him. Don't be an ass, guys. There's a lot of them out there. COVID was the second river runs through it, boom, or as I call it, COVID runs through it. That brought a lot more anglers on the river, and we just have to do a good job of sharing the resource. I've got this sign on my vehicle, so if I'm at a spot where there's access both upstream and downstream, and I'm the first car there, I show which way I'm going. So if somebody else comes in, they're like, oh, I can go downstream. Rather than guess and risk either walking in on somebody from above and spoiling their fishing or coming up behind them. At least if you come up behind somebody, you know to stay back from them or turn around and go the other way. The other thing is if two of you pull up at the bridge, start talking and say, hey, which way are you going? Are you going up or are you going down? You know? And if you ask, makes things a lot easier. Okay, hoppers or terrestrial. This is some other really fun dry fly fishing in the summertime. It's, big bugs. You can splat the fly on the water so there's no finesse in the presentation and the fish eat them readily. But it's not just hoppers, guys. Said it before, ants, beetles. We start seeing ants and beetles the end of this month. So keep that in mind when you're out fishing the spring caddis hatch in late April and you just see a fish come up once and don't see him come up again. That fish probably ate a beetle or an ant that blew into the water. Tie on an ant or a beetle and throw it over them and he'll probably eat it. And again, from late April through the end of the season, there's always ants and beetles around. Just like with our mayflies, there's more size 18 to 20 blue-winged olives in the system than there are size 14 Hendricksons. The fish key on them more because it's a more available food source. Same with ants and beetles versus hoppers. Also, water that's had a lot of pressure and fish are used to seeing big hopper patterns where they coast up to it really slow. Nope, not today because the fly's that big and they can inspect it. Yeah, throw a beetle or an ant that's about that big, they can't look at it as closely. Also with the hopper, trailing a Frenchie or a copper john a couple feet behind it. It's a good way to fish those pockets below riffles in midsummer, surface and subsurface at the same time. Yeah, our summer hopper fishing is welcome to the jungle. It's high grass. Keep things easy here. Just have a hopper pattern, don't have a dropper. 2x tippet so you can horse fish out from under the bank. Or if the fly hangs up on the bank, you can pull it, get it back without breaking it off. Be careful when you walk around these banks because this grass grows up and then it folds over the bank. So always kind of do one of those, or if you carry a wading staff, poke. I've done it. Oh, I got to get closer to the bank. And all of a sudden I punch through grass and I'm down a cut bank this high and this deep in water. But there's big fish in there. Yeah, that doesn't look like much, does it, guys? The little feeder streams to the major streams are a big key for late summer because generally they have more springs and it's colder water. But when you first see it and you see that it's about this far across, you're like, no, you're kidding me. I'm not fishing that today. But if you're willing to walk a little bit through some heavy stuff, it widens out. You can go along these overhangs, inside cuts, along the edges of the bank, up the middle, and oh, there's some big fish. 16-inch brown came out of there. And oh yeah, 5 minutes after that fish came out of there. Needless to say, that person is ruined and now owns land, about 300 yards from a class 1 trout stream. Temperatures, again, summertime. When it hits 68, stop fishing. Warm water can stress the trout, especially if they're pulling against the rod. And they're not as likely to live once they're released. A lot of summer temps, upper 50s to low 60s is fine. Once the water temperature hits 65 degrees, the fish activity tends to fall way off anyway because they're cold weather fish. So own a stream thermometer and use it. The other thing, start early in the day, so early morning, and be done by noon, you know, before things get too hot. The other thing, though, is look for things that help make the water cooler and create some shade. The easiest thing is any of these riffles. They provide a higher level of dissolved oxygen. They might lower the water temperature a couple of degrees. And the broken water on the surface, the sunlight can't penetrate as easily through it. So that gives the fish some shade. And again, nice fish. Also, any of this undercuts along this bank grass here that's hung over the bank, and again below that riffle, that's good. Because again, the fish want shade. Shade from trees. And oh yes, with terrestrials, both ants, beetles, hoppers, warm, sunny, windy days. You know the winds we've had the last few days? We want those in the summer because it blows them into the water. And they'll eat them. Shade. This stretch has the double whammy, or triple whammy, I'm sorry. Current from the riffle, shade from the trees, shade from the bank grass. The other thing for cooler temps in the summer, limestone bluffs. Mainly not just shade, but many of them are sources of underground springs that bubble in. So again, they can be pumping 50-degree water into the stream. So fish will hold there. Just don't spend too much time around them. Because catching, I don't know, sitting by one of those spring holes, catching 20 or 30 fish probably isn't the best thing for the resource. But again, we leave that up to you. Everybody thinks differently there. Fall. Oh gosh, I wish we had our trout season go till October 31st. Those of you who bow hunt are probably glad that we don't. And I understand that. But, you know, our last couple of weeks, we got fall color on the hillside. Bank grasses are starting to die back and get knocked down a little bit more, so it makes it easier to get around. But the big thing is the trout are putting on the feed bag and getting ready for the upcoming spawn and the upcoming winter. So we're seeing some bigger, more aggressive fish. Also, they've got their fall colors as well, like that brown and that brookie. And yes, this is one of those brookies that I think has developed the gene to tolerate warm water better because it came out of a stream that actually gets rather warm. Not just about the fish, you know. Enjoy the wildlife, you know, whether it's the sandhill cranes, which we didn't start hearing this year till March. We normally hear them in February, but it was single digits to teens in February. Everybody was either inside or in a nice fishing shack, so stands to reason why that didn't happen. And then some of the cool wildlife pictures. We were fishing this run last summer, and all of a sudden we hear this thrashing in the bush. No, I didn't step on this one. And all of a sudden the fawn pokes out like a dog and is in the water. It's probably one of the coolest shots I got in 2 weeks. Amish Country, so gives you something interesting to see. When you are on the road with these buggies, please give the buggies and horses space. How those animals don't spook, I still don't know. Okay, if things start to fall apart, don't throw a temper tantrum. Temper tantrums do not help you catch more fish. Contrary to popular belief, it's been proven. Sit on the bank for a while, chill out, and then come back at it with thought process reorganized. Bring your spouse or significant other. Yes, there may be some spousal rivalry. I do not mediate that. I shake my head. I turn the other way. Bring your kid. You know, kids are the future of the sport. His dad, Phil, he's the Scott Rod, Russ, and Able Reel and Airflow line rep in the Great Lakes region. He used to guide on the Au River in Grayling, Michigan. He gets to go to cool places out west for sales meetings. He still thinks that Southwest Wisconsin is the best walkway trout fishery in the lower 48. Listen to that thought and keep it up here, because we've got a really good fishery. Release the fish so that A, they can live to fight another day, make more fish. You can catch it again, or other people can catch it again. And I'm running out of things to say. Got my QR code both here and here to sign up for my email list so you know what's going on with Madison Fly Fishing Company. And does anybody have any questions? There are no dumb questions, guys.
What do you think about spring green? Lodi, I'm sorry. Lodi.
You know, it has been so long that I've fished it that my opinions probably become unformed. I can tell you that.
So I got fish in there.
They catch.
Show me pictures of it.
Yeah, they catch fish in town there. They do.
Yeah, that's very well.
And you know, the marsh area there has them, though it's a slog through the marsh to get to it. Yeah, when I lived here on the north side, we did Spring Creek and Lodi and, you know, Rocky Run and Rowan Creeks by Poinet. We did, because we lived over here. It's easy, you know, Token even. I'm on the near west side now. I can be on Black Earth Creek in 20 minutes.
Is that your hotspot?
I can be on Gordon in half an hour. The Sugar in, I don't know, 12 minutes, 13 minutes. And then I can be on the Blue in an hour, Big Green, hour and 20. So that's why I'm not there anymore, partially convenience. But yeah, it's got cold water. It's still there. Anybody else? Yes?
When you come across a pool that's like 3-4 feet deep
Uh-huh.
with like a pretty strong flow through,
Yep.
is that worth stopping to fish? And
Yes.
go about it?
Yes. Yes. And what you want to do, you want to have a nymph rig there, so have a strike indicator up at least, you know, that far from the fly. Add some extra split shot onto your fly. I don't know if Pat has them here in the shop, but the little water gremlin, either B or double B, removable ones, and they do have them in lead-free now. I don't know if Pat carries those, but
Green gremlin, yeah.
yeah, the green gremlins. But yeah, put 1 or 2 of those on, and that'll help get your fly down. And that's another thing. If you're fishing through a spot and you're not catching anything, put more weight on your leader before you change flies. Because you might have your flies going this high above the fish. More weight gets them that high above it. Does that make sense? And the other thing, you know, a streamer and one of those sinking poly leaders, like the sonar leader from Scientific Anglers, where you can take your regular monofilament leader, you know, off your line, loop that sinking leader onto the end and about that much tippet. That works on one of those pools too. Oh, yes, sir.
If you were to go fishing over the next couple of weeks, what would you be fishing with? You mentioned there was going to be some kind of bugs that were going to be.
Okay. Surface fishing, blue-winged olive mayflies. Those are happening right now. God, I would really, really like to say the Granum caddis are going to start this weekend, but my optimism's not terribly high because it's been cold. But I'd say in the next 2 weeks, a size 16, you know, like olive X caddis or Elker caddis for the Granum hatch. Subsurface, you know, it's always scuds, flashback pheasant tails, you know, zebra midges, leeches, buggers. In fact, when our winter season, I'll digress here, but when it first reopened rather in January, guys would come into the shop. I used to run Fontana on the west side. What do you got for winter flies? And I'd sell them some stuff, and they're like, this is the same stuff you sold me last spring. It's microinvertebrates that's on the stream bottom 365 days a year. It's food. The fish are eating it. Any other questions?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
What do you consider your most scenic? Not looking for your best spot, but where's your most scenic? Pat knows I like scenic.
Oh,
So
gosh.
I'm always looking for a spot to go to that's just beautiful.
I like parts of the blue.
Okay.
I like parts of the blue. I really do.
I do too.
'Cause, yeah, I do, because of the bluffs and everything. I think that's one of the more scenic spots in southwest
Like how about
Wisconsin.
up toward La Crosse? Is there anything
Oh, Timber Coulee.
Timber Coulee?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a metaphorical parking lot on weekends. I will warn you of that.
That's beautiful to walk.
But it's a beautiful, yeah. Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I was up off of the Kickapoo,
Uh-huh.
and didn't really know what I was doing, but I had my fly rod with me.
Yeah.
And found them. Was seeing a bunch of trout,
Yep.
like, grouped up even, you know, sometimes groups of 12, 18.
Uh-huh.
But they weren't feeding, and I couldn't get them to bite anything. When you're in that situation, is there anything that you do to?
They most likely saw you. And once they see you, they're not going to feed. Now, did you see them moving around at all, or were they just
They weren't moving a lot. They were
sitting?
just kind of within this like 20-foot section of
Okay.
this stream.
Yeah.
And
Because
they
if
were
they're
grouped up though.
if they're darting around frantically, you're not going to catch them. Boy, if they're grouped up like that, of course, you know, be behind them, you know, so you're in their blind spot. That's where you're going to want to add more weight. Because just say, it was last weekend, you said? Or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago from this Sunday.
That water was probably still pretty cold. So again, having that extra split shot above your fly to get it down deeper, because you got to get it right in front of their face. Yeah. Also, the other thing, if those fish weren't doing anything, they could have gotten fished over earlier. I learned in New Zealand when I got a fish and we released it, he was sitting just like this. Because there it's all sight fishing, and the guide's like, if we see a fish that's sitting like this, we're going to walk right by it. Because that fish either got caught or got spooked, you know, or a cormorant, in their case, our case, a heron, you know, dived at it, and it's just sitting there recovering. If the fish is there and it's doing this, it's moving off to the side, back, flashing, those are feeding fish, and put a fly in front of them. But if it's just sitting arrow straight and super still, yeah, you're probably not. In fact, because of the drought, the drought we were in for 2.5 years there, from middle of 21 to the early part of 24. There's a pool over on the green. It's right by a bridge. And it's just stacked with fish because it's the deepest, water in the area, and everything else was shallow. And the number of customers I had text me that went to this pool that's just air clear water, and there's, 40, 50 fish stacked in there. Can you tell me how to catch these, Craig? First, can you pay me? Was first. Second, what I really wanted to say was, I'll let you know when I figure it out. Well, we caught them, but again, it was bright sunny day, air clear water. The fish are sitting there like this. They're not doing anything. That pool is also 100 feet from where everybody parks their car. So it probably gets visited by no less than 12 people a day. So somebody could have come through before you, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, if they're not moving a lot and they're just grouped up like that.
Yeah, it was one of those situations
Yeah.
where I walked up on him and I was so surprised, and it was my first time going out. I was so excited, and then I'm waving a 10-foot long rod and getting hung up, and then
Yep.
trying to undo it and get back.
Oh yeah,
And then,
yeah,
it was a
yeah. And they
show.
probably saw the movement too.
What about fishing around bridges?
Yeah. 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 There's big fish around bridges in those pools. If it's really, really slower water, fish streamers through it. If fish are rising, fish dries. I like to have some amount of current to fish nymphs, just because we're drifting that strike indicator down, and the super slow stuff when it goes like this is just really boring to watch. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? All right.
All right.
Great.
Hey, let's give Craig
Thank
a round
you.
of applause.
Thank you. Brochures, business cards, QR code for emails, stickers are up here too if you want to.
Obviously,
Grab
Craig
some
knows what he's
stickers.
talking about, so if you want to have some firsthand guidance out on the water, please hire him, because he really does a great job. I mean, he's very well known and very well respected, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come out.
You're welcome.
It was great. We do have some prizes to give away. So I put together just a little selection of flies that Craig was talking about. So we got a couple of little things here, and then I got a gift card to the shop. So Craig, if you could pick out some names.
I'm the impartial person.
Well, you're not in there, I hope. Maybe you put your name in, I don't know.
Let's see, who do we have here? Ron Esser.
Ron, there he is. All right.
You have the Cross Plains Essers.
You know it. I don't know if I can admit to being
Essers
all of them.
best.
There's a lot of them. All right. Congrats. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Okay.
Uh,
Adrian Catacon.
yeah, we got you. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Adrian. One more. This is for a $20 gift card to the shop.
Darcy Bean.
Hey, there you go. All right. Hey, let's give it up one more time for Craig.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all for coming. Remember, 10% off if you want to grab anything. And
Well, there's your new fly line. There's your new line.
yeah. Yep. It'll be a couple weeks, but I like to give the people that show up a little time to, yeah. I do.
Cool.